Why were you bullied? Story 1. I was bullied because I skipped a grade, so was one of the smaller kids in the class. The bully in gym class then thought it was funny he could pick me up in body, slam me, and during the swimming part of gym, thought it was funny he could hold me underwater until I nearly passed out. I remember at our 25th class reunion, he greeted me like we were always the best of friends. He was morbidly obese and I don't think lived much longer. Looking back, he was probably abused as a kid, which would explain his bullying and eating disorder, but still, I wouldn't be sad if he's passed. Story 2. When I was 11, I moved to a new city, new school because of a DV situation with my mom and her ex. Unfortunately, I had already started getting booed. Well, in the new school, everyone was nice. I was quite shy. We moved in the middle of the year, except for one kid. He made sexual remarks, hand-mouth gestures that I didn't totally understand at the time, and followed me, even chasing me at recess, trying to undo my bra, or even just trying to blatantly grab my boobs. He tried to tell the teachers, but this was back in the boys will be boys and, oh, he must like you if he's picking on you crap days. I didn't have the words for sexual harassment or assault. Plus, I was the new, very shy kid, so I tended not to make waves very much. I did hit him, punched him numerous times, but that seemed to turn him on more. I truly hated him. Luckily, he went away by middle school. I always hoped he went to juvie or military school, but I don't know anything for sure. I heard some years back, not long after I graduated, that he died. Drug out, I believe. Story 3. Because a guy 2 years above me unzipped his trousers and took his penis out without warning and asked me to give him a blowjob. I refused to give him a blowjob. I'd never even kissed a boy at this point. Cue bullying for a year. Multiple guys telling me they were sexually frustrated and to suck their dicks every day and sexually harassing me until I had to leave the school. Nothing was done about their behavior, even though I reported it multiple times. They even said these things in front of teachers a few times, and I basically just got a collective shrug from them. It got to the point where I was skipping school to get away from them, which of course was blamed on me, and I was told that skipping school to escape sexual harassment wasn't a good enough excuse. I didn't ask him to pull his fucking dick out, and I never agreed to perform sex act. I was 13 fucking years old. I was bullied for something that was done to me, not something I did. It still makes me angry. Story 4. I wondered for the longest time why girls in my grade hated me so much. They were mean to me beyond a certain limit and just glared at me with hatred in their eyes all through middle school, high school. I only realized this after I met my partner, and we were talking about how we both got bullied in our childhoods, and he pointed out that that could be the reason. Story 5. My brother was bullied for a speech impediment. I stood up for him a lot and talked for him when I could. I hated people making fun of him. He is such a kind soul, big part of his community as a volunteer firefighter, big part of his church too. He kind and funny and works hard. People are jerks. Story 6. I feel this. I'm biracial but was raised by my white mom. I was bullied by black kids for acting white and talking white. I never understood that though, because I liked school and getting good grades and not acting wild in class. That meant I was trying to be white. What did being black mean then? Looking back, I feel bad for those kids. They were likely only repeating what they heard at home. Imagine telling your kids not to end the cycle of poverty via education because that meant they were trying to be white. Story 7. Oh yeah. Got called an Oreo because I was black but didn't like rap. Did good in school and didn't talk ghetto. Never mind that my family's from the Caribbean, so I don't feel much of a draw with black American culture. The result? Years of prejudice against a lot of black culture up until college that I'm still grappling with, and I often feel more comfortable with white and Asian peers or a mix than with just black people. Story 8. For real, that shit hurt. I am a third-generation Korean American, and I fucking hated the Koreans I went to church with. For starters, I didn't grow up in a Korean community. I was from Seoul, Houston, which hardly had any Koreans when I lived there. So I was seen as whitewashed. It was funny, because white people aren't even the majority in SU Houston. And it didn't help that I enjoyed skateboarding and alternative music, which was seen as a white people thing by other Asians. But I was still fluent in Korean, and I probably knew more about Korean culture than 90s of the Koreans around me. Overall, I got judgmental comments for having Hatebreed and 3-6 Mafia on my iPod, and no one liked the fact that I was perfectly bilingual either. They really didn't like the fact that I was making Korean culture seem pretty cool to all my non-Asian friends either, as if being Korean was this in-group thing that no one should know about. But considering how big Korean culture and alternative music eventually became, all of the Korean Americans knew, as a kid can eat my nuts now. I was ahead of the curve this whole time. Story 9. Yeah, I'm a female with really mild autism. Add anxiety, panic disorder, and depression. Oh, and endometriosis, adenomyosis, cystic ovaries, and pomiosis. Cystic ovaries and PMD. Fucking puberty was great. Basically went crazy publicly. Into autistic hyperventilating panic meltdowns due to abuse and lost most of my friends who turned into some of my bullies. Kids that picked on me in elementary school were physically violent. They'd just punch you up a bit. But the bullies in middle and high school straight ruined my fucking life in numerous ways was super. Story 10 yup. I was a bit of an outsider. Never tit in. So I kind of felt bullied even though really I wasn't. Looking back, I think that's just about the best case scenario that could realistically happen. There was no way I was ever gonna fit in with the crowd. At 34, I still don't. The difference is that it doesn't bother me anymore, and I've found friends who appreciate weird or just as weird themselves. 14-year-old me may not agree, but 34-year-old me would much rather be crazy and weird than boring. Story 11. I was bullied because of my autism as well. The gyres were the worst. One girl would come and punch me in the back until I fell down. There was a group of girls in my class that would run away from me, telling me that nobody likes me and for me to go away. I was excluded from everything and was scared to go to school every day for many years. The school didn't do anything about it, nor did my parents really. Almost 20 years later, I still cry from time to time and suffer from severe anxiety and depression. Story 12. I have had multiple murder attempts against me by the middle brother. Want to guess who the cops arrested? Here's a hint. It wasn't him. A short, puny, disabled guy, which is me. Why? The cop said, I didn't look like someone they should care about. Story 13. I was diagnosed with Asperger's at age 4 and went to special needs school my entire childhood. In junior high, they decided to merge the autism class with the physical disability wheelchair class. I guess to create a suitable place for the double kids who had both autism and a wheelchair. Let's just say there was a lot of animosity between the purely physical and autistic kids and a lot of hatred towards the latter. No eyes were stabbed or so, but severe meltdowns were triggered. Story 14. I've seen some of the guys that bullied me when I was a kid, and all of them turned into drug dealers, and they all look terrible for their age. That alone gives me some satisfaction. Story 15. God, I hated that school bus. Got stripped naked and thrown out the back door while the bus was moving. Hitting the gutter with my bare ass dislocated my hip and gave me a gravel rash that made it impossible to sit down for a week. Took me a few weeks to get the courage up to get on again after that. And when I did, I got stabbed, covered in lighter fluid, and set on fire. Haven't been able to get on a bus ever since, and that was about 40 years ago. Story 16, I got bullied for not taking part in bullying special ed kids. I finally told my dad, and he told me, you are already on the right side. Now what are you going to do about it? Without saying so, he made it clear that it was okay for me to fight back and actively stop these assholes. The next 5 years, 8th grade through high school, I beat the living dog shit out of a couple dozen assholes who thought it was fun to pick on the special ed kid. I also took several beatings, but at least left the other kid alone. Story 17, I was born with a condition called microtia. It affects the ears. So my ears were tiny, about 5 centimeters, and it sat 90 degrees out instead of being close to my head. I'm also deaf out of one ear. Kids used to call me Gnome, Leprechaun, Little Deaf Girl, etc. Story 18, compound this with being abused by family. I was the poster image of a wild child. Only instead of being destructive, I was just quiet and couldn't fight back until I had enough. As a girl, boys couldn't physically harm me, especially when they wanted to, so they always asked the other girls, who in turn just gang up on me, and not only was I physically beaten, they destroyed my stuff, stole my saved money, gifts from adoptive side who I rarely saw, and openly ostracized me for things I had little to no control of. I just never had a childhood. The only thing I envied them for was having parents that never called them a burden. Story 19, same with me. I was that kid that literally was not mentally there. I was that kid from kindergarten who would not socialize at all, stare at the floor, the walls, and look sad and gloomy. A lot. I was always drowning out the world and wasn't really mentally there. Story 20. It's interesting how people attack the shy, quiet loner kids. I was like that in high school, a school that was for the rich. No one knew that I had a super different life outside of school. After I was tired of the shit I went through at school, the moment a lot of my bullies caught me out, having fun. With a lot of people, they literally stopped bullying. Like, damn, what's that? Guess they were worried I'd send someone to